The December winds roared down Fifth Avenue like a living creature, biting at the skin and chilling even the well-dressed shoppers scurrying from one store to another. Christmas lights twinkled from every corner, and the aroma of roasted chestnuts and cinnamon filled the air. It was a festive night, magical for most, but not for everyone. Outside the grand restaurant, La Bellevue, a boy stood barefoot on the icy sidewalk, his threadbare jacket barely shielding him from the cold. His name was Tommy. Only 9 years old, he had already tasted more hunger and loneliness than most could imagine. His nose pressed against the window, fogging the glass, as he stared longingly at the families inside. Mothers fed laughing toddlers. Fathers lifted glasses in cheer. Plates overflowed with warm, delicious food, steak, lobster, soups, things Tommy had only ever dreamed about. His stomach ached with hunger, but more than that, it ached for the warmth, the love, the family he had lost. Inside the restaurant, hidden in a private booth away from the crowd, sat William Harrington, one of America's most powerful billionaires. Known for his towering skyscrapers, luxury hotels, and ruthless business mind, William had built an empire from scratch. But over the years, his heart had grown cold, his world lonely. His wife had died young, taken by an illness even money couldn't cure, and since then, he had thrown himself into work, walling off his emotions. That night, William was supposed to be celebrating another massive real estate deal. His colleagues clinked champagne glasses and laughed loudly. But William wasn't celebrating. He couldn't stop staring. Through the frosted glass, he saw Tommy. The boy's gaunt face. His trembling hands. His hollow eyes. Something inside William, long buried beneath layers of money and ambition, cracked. For a long moment, he simply watched. Then, without a word, he stood up. His companions called after him, confused, but William Harrington, the man who never showed emotion, was already pushing through the restaurant doors into the freezing night. The boy startled and backed away, fear flashing across his dirt-smudged face. "Hey, buddy," William said gently, crouching down despite the cold seeping through his expensive suit. "Are you hungry?" Tommy hesitated, biting his lip. He had learned not to trust strangers. Especially ones who looked like this, polished shoes, silk tie, hair perfectly combed. They were the ones who usually shooed him away, sometimes with harsh words, sometimes with even harsher hands. But something in the man's eyes, it was different. Soft. Sad. Tommy gave a tiny nod. William smiled. Not his usual business smile, cold and calculated, but a real, warm smile he had almost forgotten how to make. "Come on," he said, reaching out his hand. For a terrifying second, Tommy thought about running. But then, maybe it was hunger, maybe it was hope, he slipped his small hand into William's. And everything changed. Inside the restaurant, silence fell. Heads turned. Conversations halted. Forks paused halfway to mouths. The billionaire of New York, William Harrington, was walking a filthy street boy to his private table. The manager rushed forward, panic on his face. "Sir, would you like me to?" William raised one hand, silencing him. "This young man is my guest," he said firmly. "Treat him as such." The staff scattered instantly. Tommy sat stiffly at the table, eyes wide as plates began to arrive, more food than he had ever seen. He reached for a roll but then froze, looking up at William uncertainly. "Go ahead," William said, nodding. The boy devoured the bread, soup, steak, as tears silently streamed down the faces of nearby diners. Some pulled out napkins to hide their emotions. Some whispered prayers of thanks for witnessing this moment. But to Tommy, it was just survival. To William, it was awakening. As the boy ate, William asked, "Where's your family?" Tommy paused, chewing slowly. "My mom, she got sick last winter. We used to live in a small apartment. After she passed, the landlord said we had to leave. I tried staying with my uncle, but... He trailed off, looking away. It didn't work out. William's heart twisted painfully. He remembered, in flashes, nights when he had gone to bed hungry. Days when his own mother had skipped meals so he could eat. The nights she had cried in the bathroom so he wouldn't hear. And when she had died. He, too, had been alone. That night, William didn't just buy Tommy dinner. He took him home. To his penthouse overlooking Central Park. The first night at the penthouse. Tommy couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft. The room too big. The air too warm. He padded to the massive window and looked out over the glittering lights of the city. William found him there, curled up on the carpet, shivering despite the warmth. "You don't have to be afraid," William said, kneeling beside him. "You're safe now." Tommy looked at him, searching his face. "Why are you helping me?" he whispered. William swallowed hard. No business deal. No billion-dollar merger. Nothing had ever made him feel as much as this boy's question did. "Because," he said softly, "once upon a time, I was you." In the weeks that followed, everything changed. William enrolled Tommy in school. He bought him clothes, not designer brands, but things Tommy actually liked: sneakers, hoodies, baseball caps. He sat with him every evening, helping him with homework he didn't understand, laughing when Tommy taught him the newest video games, listening when Tommy talked about his mom. And slowly, William found himself smiling more. Laughing more. Living again. But it wasn't all easy. Some business partners ridiculed him. Tabloids ran headlines like, "Billionaire's charity stunt," or "Midlife crisis." Old friends whispered behind his back. William didn't care. For the first time in decades, he was doing something that mattered. 2 years later, on Christmas Eve, Tommy stood in front of a massive Christmas tree at the Harrington Foundation Gala. He was no longer the skinny boy in rags. He was strong, smart, filled with light. Hundreds of New York's most powerful people sat at tables, sipping wine and waiting for the keynote speech. But when Tommy walked onto the stage, the room fell utterly silent. He stood there, in his simple black suit, hands trembling slightly, and began. "My name is Tommy Harrington. I used to be invisible. People walked past me every day on the street. No one saw me. No one cared. Until one man, just one, stopped. He looked out into the crowd, his eyes finding William's. He didn't just give me food that night. He gave me hope. He gave me a future. He gave me a home." His voice broke, thick with emotion. And because of him, today, the Harrington Foundation is opening shelters across New York, so no child has to spend Christmas alone, cold, and hungry like I once did. Tears flowed freely across the room. Even the hardest billionaires, the most cynical socialites, wept openly. And William wept too. Because in saving Tommy, he had saved himself. A simple act of kindness can ripple through time and change countless lives. Sometimes, the miracle you give is the miracle you needed yourself.